Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Wait for some folks to join in.
Okay.
We're going to get started in a little bit. Let me check. If people are here, so we have some people joining. Say hi in the chat so that Caazena and I know that you're here.
Okay, I think I'm looking in the right section. So I see like Terry and Alexandria and Hillary, Yvonne.
Awesome. Well, we'll get started. My name is Imani Daniel. I am the Racial Justice Administrative Manager for Dallas Truth, the Racial Healing Transformation. Thank you so much for joining our Youth, Race, and Organizing event. Caazena is here from the IF Institute, and she is going to lead us in this session. So take it away, Caazena.
All right, thank you very much. And so I am going to share my screen. And okay. And so, of course, in this version, I can't see you all, but welcome, welcome, welcome. I am excited to be here with you. And as Imani said, we're going to talk about youth, race, and organizing today. And so, so we will have time for questions at the end. And I am going to see if I can see the chat. So I can see the Q&A section. And so Imani, if you just let me know if I have a question in the chat or anything as we go through. And so I did want to center us. So one of the co-founders of Young Leaders Strong City, Amanda Sims, was interviewed the other day, and she had a really great quote that I wanted to share with you. She said, it's kind of frightening to think about the fact that students don't have a safe space to talk about these things. That they want things to be different. So a safe space to talk about race and to be present in this moment during our continued ongoing racialized experiences. So I did want to center us with that quote from one of the co-founders of Young Leaders Strong City. And so here's a little information about me, a quick bio and a fun t-shirt. So of course, Young Leaders Strong City, every time we have a summit, we have a great t-shirt. And as you can see, my current t-shirt is a little weathered. It's it is actually the first Young Leaders Strong City t-shirt that I ever got. And so there you can just see a little information about myself. So I am going to share a few things that are not listed here. So I am, of course, a Dallas native and born and raised in the DFW area, attended both public and private school. And some of the things that are there, you know, background in Spanish and sociology. The reason I studied Spanish was because in high school I failed Spanish. And so, so just a little information there about me. We have a new family dog that we got during COVID named Free, ironically, working in racial equity, and I have a dog named Free. And so just a few interesting tidbits about me. And so if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and a quick fun fact, that would be absolutely fantastic so that you can kind of get an opportunity to know each other there. So drop your fun fact in the chat. And so, of course, I can't see it. So let me see if I can. This is my first time working on this platform, so I do apologize for not being able to see those. But we will continue. So I did want to share my how and why I got connected with Young Leaders Strong City and the Imagining Freedom Institute. And so a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2017, 2018, I was looking for additional volunteer opportunities. So growing up in the DFW area, elementary school, middle school, I went to public school. And in high school, I had an opportunity to go to a private school. So I went to Green Hill School in Addison, and that provided some very unique private school experiences. And so my graduating class was about 100 students, of which about 8 people were Black. And so I came from elementary and middle schools that were predominantly Black and brown spaces. And so I had a lot of unique experiences at Green Hill School as it pertains to race. And so I didn't have a place to have these conversations. And so when I found out that there was an organization providing an opportunity for students to have conversations openly and freely and centering student voice about race, I said, hey, where can I sign up? How can I be a part of this team? How can I contribute? So I volunteered. The first year I volunteered, it was at a church, and I just kind of filled in wherever I could the day of. And then the next year I facilitated on a workshop on gender and masculinity and femininity, and kind of talking through like even non-binary instances. And so that was another introduction to Young Leaders Strong City, and then meeting other facilitators and meeting the team. I just really had to be a part of it. So my why was because I had these racialized experiences in high school and didn't have an outlet for them. So finding an organization that had an opportunity to kind of fulfill that need or that void, and that centering of student voice was very important for me. And so now I became a part of the team. And so just a little information about Young Leaders Strong City. It was founded in 2014. Several founders, co-founders, Robbie and Amber. And so really looking at them being the only opportunity for students in the DFW area to have these conversations about race. And so there you will see information about education and the network of students and educators. And so initially starting this by providing these services to students, and now more than 2,500 students have been involved in Young Leaders Strong City programming, 30 plus campuses, 75 plus activists, artists, and educators. And so the way that the programming is offered, the facilitators that are mostly here in the DFW area are a wealth of knowledge for students, and students are able to educate each other and educate the facilitators as well. And so at this point, of course, it has been about 7 years of youth in leadership. And so these are the core values of Young Leaders Strong City. So we are anti-racist, grounded in history, honest dialogue, so that a piece of truth, collective people sharing knowledge, being fully present and engaged, expecting unfinished business, speaking from I statements, moving up and moving back. So an opportunity to come forward, say what you need to say, but also stepping back and allowing room for others to speak. What's said here stays here, but what's learned here leaves here. One mic, so an opportunity for each student to take a stance and hold the mic and then release the mic when they are done, and default to love. And so these are all of the core values And some of the ones that I really wanted to focus in, so grounded in history. So knowing and centering in the fact that the history that maybe students are taught in schools may be incorrect, incomplete, or not taught at all. And so again, I say that incorrect, incomplete, or not taught at all. And so having an opportunity for students to be present together and express the things that they feel they are missing out in terms of education, in terms of their experiences in school. And so whenever planning a student summit, we make sure that we center the voice of students and the needs of students, and they are present as we are designing. And so we're designing with them in terms of the topics that are presented. Also focusing on a collective people. So we believe everyone has the ability to learn, teach, and lead. And so focusing on students being able to learn, but also youth being able to teach and lead from where they are. And that is also important as we talk about organizing and students organizing as they face different issues in different aspects of their life. And then I lastly want to hone in on speaking from I statements. We ask participants and facilitators to not generalize about group experiences, but to speak from the I voice. So your own personal experiences instead of leaning into we and they. We want them to talk about their own experiences fully. And so, of course, you can see there all of the core values of Young Leaders Strong City, but I did want to highlight those three, given the time that we have today. So I would like to ask, what is your first memory of race? What is your first memory of race? And for this question, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to come back. And so what is your first memory of race? And if you could drop it in the chat for me, that would be great. What is your first memory of race? And I am looking in the chat to see what I see. What is your first memory of race? What is your first memory of race? Drop the question in the chat and just looking for some replies. I see earlier that Stephanie said, I love these values, so important. Thank you, Stephanie. What are your first memories of race? So thinking about when you were maybe a student, what were your first memories of race? Okay, so Wanda said being in elementary school and asking, where do I come from? And to that, I would wonder, what was the person that you asked, what was their response? Did they have a response? Was it the response that you needed in that moment? Others, what's your first memory of race? Thank you, Wanda, for sharing that. And so as others chime in, I think some of my first memories of race were, just realizing that the majority of the spaces that I was in up until about high school were filled with Black and brown people. Stephanie Tovar said in elementary school, us speaking slurs about each other without fully knowing the deep hatred and self-loathing. I'm Latina and was in a predominantly Latinx elementary school. If we wanted to slur on each other, we could call each other, and I won't repeat it, but you see it there, the pain in even remembering this. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And so tons of real accounts, having a conversation with my mom about my hair as a 5-year-old and why I couldn't play with, and then I'm not familiar with that word, Aisha. So if you could tell us what that is. I wondered if I was from Africa or the US, Wanda mentioned. Absolutely. So thinking about these first experiences with race and thinking about who were the people that you leaned on during these times to share this conversation with? What were those experiences like? So I do appreciate each of you sharing these experiences. Elise said, when I was 3 years old, I was at a store with my mom. A lighter skinned boy pinched me and told his mom I looked fishy because of the color of my skin. I was one of about 3 Black students in my class in elementary. I remember some of my peers would ask me about my braids. Absolutely. So these ongoing conversations about hair. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you all for sharing those first memories of race. And so for me in high school, kind of being in those multiracial spaces, but also, continuing not to feel included, not to feel like I was a part of the group. And so actually we had some trouble with audio, so I'm not going to play a clip, but I am going to set a scene for you in terms of what a Young Leaders Strong City Summit looks like and feels like in some of the experiences of students. And I know some of you that are participating in this event today have had an opportunity to actually attend one of those summits. And so for me, it is immediately students coming in and I feel like they feel seen. And so it's kind of the check-in process and them deciding, we usually have an opening session to kind of center and ground and bring everyone together to set the tone for the day and to provide students, with their options and the fact that they're able to freely roam the space and to decide and have that choice of what sessions would you like to go to today. And so if you are in a session and you decide, okay, I want to go to another session, I've had my feel of this one, having that free range of movement as you are able to go to different sessions about different topics, whether it be about politics, whether it be about gender, whether it be about, immigration and immigrant status, and being able to hold space with students in that space. Another thing that, when we have adults in our space, we make sure that we let adults know that this is a space that is for students and by students. And in this moment, we do respectfully ask that you not speak, that you just be in a position to listen. And often it's difficult for adults to embrace the fact that in this space, this is a student-centered space. And I've had, instances as a volunteer where I had to shut adults down and say, hey, this is the time where we are centering student voice and you are welcome to sit here and listen, but this is not the space and your opportunity for you to speak. And so just having those instances with adults, when students come in, they are able to see when we were physically together, they were able to see like quotes from powerful historical leaders on the walls in bright colors. They were able to, take pictures for their social media profiles and have the hashtags like YLSC movement. And so they were able to, get their agendas for the day and their T-shirts and their swag and be able to enjoy a really great lunch because, food is important for us all. And so being able to have a great meal and have like Snapchat lunches where there's a space where you have a conversation openly with other students about a certain topic. So they're able to talk about their experiences freely that they are having at their schools, and things that they've heard from, adults or administrators, and how it made them feel. And so having that moment to share, and also the fact that there are students that are from private schools, students that are from public schools, students that are from different districts. And this year during our annual summit, being able to pivot, being able to provide the summit in a virtual atmosphere. One of the sessions was about reimagining race and superhero, talking through Black Panther and talking through like design and comics, and what that means for organizing and what that looks like in organizing. Talking about, so one virtual presenter took students on a field trip to the polls and took them through that experience. So also talking about women and power and music, and centering like popular music from Meg Thee Stallion during this time. And so being able to pivot to a virtual space. And so I ask you now for this next question, what conversations did you have in high school about race? Share it with your peers and colleagues in the chat. What conversations did you have in high school about race? For me, I remember being one of 8 Black people at a public school, talking to other Black people about their experiences within the school. Some of the students were part of what was called the Forever Club, which meant they'd been there at Green Hill School forever, and it was their only experience. They were there from pre-K through high school, and so talking through those experiences. Jack and Jill was very popular, and so some of the students that were there and their participation in Jack and Jill and having those conversations, also having conversations about education and conversations about their experiences maneuvering being a Black high school student in this diverse space. And so those were some of the conversations that I had in high school about race. I remember having a teacher actually make comments in reference to race. It was something about like people in Oak Cliff and not being able to read. And I immediately knew that was racialized, and I immediately, had a conversation there in the classroom with the teacher, and immediately felt like I needed to speak up in that moment when no one else was. And so some of these racialized conversations throughout high school for me. And so drop in the chat, what are some of the conversations you had in high school about race? And I hate that I can't hear your voices during this time, but thank you for sharing your stories and your experiences in the chat. How can we create more spaces for our youth to have conversations about race? Now I'm going to stop my share for a minute, and I'm going to toggle back. And so I see, and I do, if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, it says, the only conversation I remember distinctly was in my AP English class, a debate about being colorblind about characters while reading. There was basically no talk about race that I remember. Very interesting. And then when I think about AP classes and tracking and how students, the tracks tend to be racialized, that's always of interest to me. So in health class, and we spoke on the topic of affirmative action, the teacher was not prepared for the conversation, and I was the only person of color in the class. So naturally I became the ambassador when in heated debate with another student, they claimed in class that affirmative action was the only reason I was there. Absolutely, Stephanie, having those conversations about affirmative action. Reading and discussing To Kill a Mockingbird was the one that sticks out to me. Ooh, Jeannie, great about bringing up literature. I reading Huckleberry Finn and being, the only Black student in my English class, and the use of the N-word, and And again, having to have a moment where I pulled my teacher to the side and had a conversation. Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing in the chat. And I'm just scrolling. So Jeannie said the best experience ever was sitting quiet and listening to students express the safe space that is created by Young Leaders Strong City, space to speak freely. And so it's the fact that Young Leaders Strong City creates a safe space, a space where students can be courageous and share their real experiences, whereas in other spaces they may not feel that courage and that safety. When I was in high school, predominantly white, a teacher called a group of boys a bunch of, and then the N-word, then used the they said why can't I language. It was a mess, a whole mess that continues to this day. And so that the use of an N-word has been and continues to be an ongoing issue. Discussing how the land where Fair Park is now was maintained with our drafting teacher who lived in the land being taken. He was the best of all of our teachers to discuss race in Dallas with. Thank you, Hillary, for sharing that. So I appreciate you all sharing that and naming that and being totally transparent and showing your courage here in this space. So I'm going to reshare. All right. And so always thinking through how can we create more spaces for our youth to have conversations about race? Because as we know, there are not many spaces where students can openly have these conversations in an ongoing way on several of our campuses. So thinking through, no matter what organization you are a part of, thinking through how you can have conversations about race in a safe and courageous way. And so here you'll see a few headlines from the Dallas Morning News in reference to students, in reference to experiences of race, to how students essentially took a stand and organized against these situations that were happening at their school. So racist videos by Midlothian high school students and how they went viral, consequences handed down to Southlake students after racist videos were posted on Facebook. And so with all of these situations and instances, this is the time when it was recognized, when it was seen, and it was brought to attention. But we have to know that these aren't the only situations. These aren't the only times. And so we must think about how many times did it happen and it flew under the radar and no one drew attention to it and no one took notice of it. And these same instances may have happened. And so we see a quote there from Beverly Daniel Tatum. It is important to understand that the system of advantage is perpetuated when we do not acknowledge its existence. And so not only acknowledging the incidents that happen, but acknowledging that it is a system and these things are baked in. And what do we do to take it out of this recipe? And so when I learned about this project, because I'm a Green Hill alum, and I learned about this project, and so there were students that, before my involvement with Young Leaders Strong City, there were students that actually attended a summit, and they were aware that things were going on at their campus and maybe didn't necessarily have the language to talk through it, and were able to attend summits and talk to other students about their experiences. And they did this project on microaggressions. And there you can see the Green Hill students and some of the statements that they made, and kind of organizing within their school and drawing attention to what was happening to the school. And so they all, of course, had the same format in terms of, Dear Green Hill, I'm good at sports because I work hard just like you, not because I'm Black. And so whether these are notes to administrators, whether these are notes to other students, whether it's and, just making their voice heard in this campaign, which was recognized by the media, and people were able to hear and learn about their experiences. Dearest Greenhill, white male privilege does exist. Dear Greenhill, my eyes are not pointed or squinty. Sincerely, other. Dear Greenhill, I am not going to be silent just because you are uncomfortable. And so this is an example of one of the ways that students attended the summit and were able to, go back to their campuses and really organize and speak out against microaggressions that they were experiencing. And, the irony of microaggressions is that you must ask, is there really anything micro about them? And so people often call it, the pain of 1,000 cuts. And so people say there might, but imagine having these 1,000 paper cuts and how grand that experience can be. And so one of the key tenets of Young Leaders Strong City is organizing and talking to students and training them in the ways of organizing. And some of those key steps are identifying the issue. So what is the issue that is happening in your life? What is the problem that you want to address? And so I think one of the funny, not funny things was a student said, why are we having chicken nuggets every single day? And so that was an issue that they wanted to address. And so they actually was at their school, and they accosted him in the moment, and they said, hey, we have this issue of we're having the same lunches over and over. We're having, chicken nuggets. I like chicken nuggets as much as the next person, but I don't like them enough to have them every day. And so in that moment, talking to their school board representative, and, in that moment, asking him, what are the steps? What are the things that we need to do so that this is addressed immediately? And so in that moment, him making a phone call to figure out, hey, how can we get this on the agenda and really talk about it? And then those students holding him accountable to talking through that issue and taking actions to get the menu changed. And so community learning. So identifying the issue, doing that deep dive of learning as it pertains to the issue, and then finding your people. Who are the other people that have this same issue? And then setting goals as a group to address the issue. What is it exactly that you want? What are those goals? Who are the people that you need to essentially punch up to? So if you are having a problem in the classroom and talking to the teacher and talking to the principal and talking to your school board representative and figuring out, who are the people essentially for you to punch up, what actions will you take? And then finally, celebrating the wins, celebrating the joy, being present in that moment, and continuing to do the work. And so, of course, taking students through these steps and having them think through, what are each of these key pointers that they would like to work through as it pertains to issues that are near and dear to them. And I think one of the things that we often take for granted is celebrating the wins and, providing opportunities for rest at points, right? And so, of course, now movements have hashtags. And so YLSC DFW is the hashtag for Young Leaders Strong Cities movements. And so there are an abundance of examples of students organizing. And here you see some images. And of course, always focusing on the systems that are in place that are the systems that continue to perpetuate the issues that students are experiencing. But students, and so here you see alumni from an elite Dallas school, disavowed classmate, a white nationalist. So students taking stances against other students that are participating in racism. And so there you can see as Young Leaders Strong City continues to grow and develop and thinking about, youth organizing, recruiting additional youth. We currently have a youth advisory committee that's meeting on Saturdays, and we're doing it virtually. And we just had our first session, and it's sponsored in part by UNT Dallas, partnership and planning with school districts and individual schools, doing our annual summit as well as summits for different independent school districts and developing chapters. And so some of the results and quotes, I loved it. By far the best seminar I have attended. The topics were talked about, were on spot and real. And the reason they're on spot and real is because youth are involved in that planning. The staff made me feel comfortable and like I belonged. So not just included, but actual belonging. It gave me a chance to talk about things we can't talk about in school without having problems. And so thinking about what's the reason that students feel like they can't talk about it in school? And then what are the problems that they are having when they broach these issues? My experience at Young Leaders Strong City allowed me to grow and share ideas with people from diverse cultures. Because remember, the students that attend Young Leaders Strong City are from different schools throughout the DFW area, be it private, be it public, be it charter schools. And we really focus on having all students present. And so, of course, you can always follow us on all of our social media handles on Instagram, YLSC, Snapchat as well, YLSC Movement, and so following Young Leaders Strong City as well on Facebook. And so I am going to stop my share because I want to make sure that we have time for questions. And if you have questions, you can go ahead and drop those in the chat or in the Q&A section, and I can take those for you now. And so if you've heard something today that really spoke to you, if you are interested in getting involved, please do visit the website and you volunteer. There are tons of ways to get connected. And so Mia Street said, I enjoyed speaking a few years ago and seeing such amazing youth. Absolutely. So Mia, what was your topic? What did you speak about? Share that with us in the chat. Okay. Are you already planning your summit for next school year? How can we support? Absolutely. So we always need additional volunteers. If there are areas that people can volunteer in different ways, if you want to be a day of volunteer, if you want to donate to the organization, you can always go to the website and donate. If you want to facilitate a certain conversation on a certain topic, are you invited to school districts or do you approach the districts you want to work with? So it's both and. So some districts seek us out. So working with Richardson ISD, working with Pierce High School. And so, there are school districts that seek us out. So Dallas Independent School District, and school districts that are interested in doing the work are seeking us out. Is it available to church and youth groups? Absolutely, reach out to us and we can design something unique for your target group. Do you work with North ISDs? We're open to working with any ISD that is interested in having conversations about race and racial equity and are interested in facilitating those conversations. Questions are coming in fast, so I want to make sure that I get to them all. I know that we have an 11:45 stop, so So Jeannie Stone stated, real conversations ensue that adults need to hear. Absolutely, and it's putting adults in a position to be in listen-only mode. And there's not often an opportunity where students have the floor and adults are only listening without rebutting, without commenting. And this is an important space. It's a sacred space. It's a space centered with student voice. And let's see what other questions we have here. All right. When done in person, is it offered at the schools themselves or elsewhere? So when done in person, it has been offered at a lot of different venues. Like I said, the first time I attended, it was actually at a church. And so it is, for our annual summit, it's, finding that space. And so locations that have spaces that are able to accommodate an abundance of students in a safe way, and so that they can safely transition and move about the building. And so Mia said she co-presented with Robbie. Our topic was Strange Fruit, the impact of colorism on masculinity and beauty standards. What a topic. And so the thing that is always great about Young Leaders Strong City is that the topics run the gamut, and the way that the facilitators are able to present is absolutely amazing and engaging for all the students. So thank you for sharing that, Mia. And so sometimes we've also had them at like independent school districts, like main office sites. So you sometimes see that as well. So it's always, finding a suitable location. And of course, like I said, this year it was done virtually. It was done in Zoom, and it was done through breakout rooms. And so we had an opportunity to pivot. Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. And so Mia said, I try to get as many schools involved. It really helps students to lay a foundation for social justice. Absolutely. So it not to say that students don't have the language, but it helps build their language. And it also provides an opportunity to build relationships with students from other school districts and other schools, period. Any other questions? Feel free to drop it in the chat. See if I missed any. How many students can be in a virtual event? What is the cost per student on average? Oh my God, that's a good question, Hillary. And so, of course, it is offered to students at no cost. I think we had over 200 students at this last summit that was virtual. Are there any current initiatives in the works that need our support? So, of course, our annual summit always needs support. Right now, we have our Youth Advisory Council that's happening. And so we are looking for students from certain zip codes as well. And so those are our Youth Advisory Council currently, as well as assistance with our annual summit. And any ongoing support is always greatly appreciated. And so, of course, with the pivot in the virtual space, providing, virtual lunches and, ongoing support of our facilitators. And so just all of the things that allow us to have a great summit, be it virtual or face-to-face, are always areas in which you can support. Okay. Okay. And so Autrey Jones had a question: is this reproductive justice issue? And so also there are conversations about there are conversations facilitated on a variety of topics, and I'm sure that has been one that has been broached. Thank you all so much for your time today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for being fully present in the chat and engaging and sharing your stories about conversations that is kind of growing up and as a high school student. So please do connect, please do follow, please do share, please do participate and engage Young Leaders Strong City, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so
Yes,
much, Caazena.
absolutely. Reach out.
Um, the social handles where people can follow Young Leaders Strong City, if you want to drop that in the chat, that way people can see that. And we really encourage you guys to get engaged, stay engaged if you're already here. I think that one of the key takeaways for me was when Caazena said, sometimes adults need to be in listen only mode. And I think that we can extend that not just in our work with youth, but even with each other, right? When we give room and space for other people's experiences, and for other people's truth, sometimes it would benefit us greatly as a whole, as society, as humans, to just be in listen only mode a lot more. So thank you so much for that. We now have a little bit of a break. The next session starts on the main stage at noon. So take a bio break, get some water, get a snack, and we will see you guys over at the main stage at 12 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.